I don't think I've ever been as content eating. I can't remember a time where I've been as content eating. I probably slowed my pace down a little bit, not necessarily because I was trying to, but because it wasn't an emotion attached to it. I was eating
Mhm.
for the function of sustaining myself. I wasn't eating because dang it, it's a rough day, like, and that's really sad to say, but like that's probably a majority, that I'm sure that's attributing 100% of the weight gain I've had over
Oh,
life. And
yes.
but I mean, it's probably become such a habit. Like I probably wolfed down my food. You've hung out with me. I
Oh,
mean,
I
I
have.
probably wolfed that down fast,
Yes.
even in moments of joy. Like I'm just
Yes.
a pig,
Yeah.
like so. Um, this wasn't the case as much this week. I was really much more under control, and yeah, I'm fired up, dude.
I,
It's good stuff.
a big reason behind that is because you thought before you acted. Like you didn't just go into autopilot mode. So it's very easy if you don't think. If your conscious mind, the front part of your brain, like if I'm thinking about what I'm doing, logically I'm thinking, is this doing me any good or not, or should I do something different? Is there another? Because there's consequences to what I'm about to do, and that's what makes us human. We have that logical part to our brain. We're able to think and rationalize if this is a good idea or not. Whereas the rest of our brain is just trying to make us happy, trying to comfortable, keep us safe. Like keep us safe. I mean, I use using the term "keep us safe" is probably the best way to describe it, because it doesn't feel safe when you're under stress. It feels like there's we got to try to find something to counteract that, and ultimately, it works. Like food works. So pushing you in that direction is something that is understandable. It's something that anybody can get attached to that, and that's been the coping mechanism. But what you've done this week is you've inserted, let me think about this before I act, before I go down that path. Let me think about what I'm trying to do here. Like, and that's why the emotion was removed, because the emotion is what just drives you to do something without thinking. I mean, that drives you, right? But then when you start thinking about it, you decide, is it a good idea or not? It's like if you get angry and your emotions telling you to punch someone in the face, but then you think about it, it's like, I mean, they may deserve it, but
It's
ultimately, it's not a good idea. Like
yeah.
it's nothing good is going to come out of this. So then you stop yourself. So if you just focused on the anger that was compelling you to attack somebody, you would do it. You would do it. You wouldn't think about it. You would do it. But when you think about it, you're like, hey, like there's consequences to this. I probably should not behave in that way. Even though
Well,
I'm angry, I don't have to do that. So same
it's
deal here.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing to say this, but I probably learned that, that in an earlier age, to control and manage your anger, right? Like
Yeah.
I was probably taught that intentionally. Like when you want to punch somebody in the face, just you don't have to do it. But with food, it's opposite. It's been so reinforced, and by my own doing. It's nobody's fault other than mine. But like I've
Right.
reinforced it over the course of so many decades of just that is your answer. That's your
Yeah.
go-to. And so it's not even, I don't know how to put it, but like you're saying, like, if you just think before you do, you've been telling me to think before I do for 30 some years.
Yeah.
Like I'm finally able to put it in practice. It's not for like I didn't care all the time. You know what I mean? Like there's been times where, I mean, the last couple weeks where I gained weight, I would say I cared, right? On some
Hmm.
level, I cared about what I was doing, but at the same time, it wasn't the priority
Right.
to focus or be conscious that it needed to be. And, our conversations helped me get there. But I have to give you a lot of credit. And I mean, because I've heard you say you just got to think before you do. I can't know. I don't know how many times, right? Like you told me that, but it finally was able to happen, and I'm
It
just
happened.
grateful it happened. Yeah,
The results prove that it happened. And number one, the reason that it became a habit is because it works. Like it was serving it serves a purpose in your life. It allows me to feel better. When I'm
Yeah.
not feeling so good, it allows me to feel better. It works. I mean, it's not something that doesn't work to serve the purpose that it's been serving, but there's consequences to it. The consequences to it are you gain weight and you harm your health and potentially live a shorter life. I mean, they're the consequences. Take those consequences away and, sign me up. I'm doing it all day long too. But you have to think, if punching somebody in the face, consequences of hurting somebody physically, going to jail over it, getting the person to take out revenge. There's so many different negatives. Nothing positive comes out of it. Yeah, may feel better for a second, but then I have to face all the consequences, right? When it comes to this, when it comes to food, no, the consequences are I might die young, but I don't have to worry about that right now because I'm still alive. Like, I don't have to deal with that now. I don't have to think about it. I could have a heart attack. Well, I haven't had one, so I don't have to worry about that either. I usually don't think about that until it happens. And um, and the way I look, if you don't, you can ignore the way you look. It's easy to just get older and get bigger and just ignore it, just not think about it, especially after you get married and then you get into a stable relationship. You're not like going overboard to try and look a certain way for people. It's just, you kind of set into a certain pattern. That just happens to most people. Unfortunately, that's just the way that the human mind works. You get complacent. So if the look is not propelling you, like you look at yourself and you're not overly concerned with that, it's very easy to just continuously do this because it works. It does allow you to escape the moment. It works every time. But when you start focusing on the negatives, like, I don't want to have a heart attack at 50. I don't want to die at 60. I don't want to. I'd like to look better. I feel more confident if I look better, if I look slimmer. And I think it's a good role model for my kids to be in shape, so they do the same thing. Then when that becomes the focus, you think there's a consequence to me doing this. And then you start getting motivated, like, oh, okay, I'll start making better choices. I don't have to completely revamp my diet and become a health freak. I'll just be able to make choices that allow me to lose weight and allow me to moderate and do so in a reasonable way. And that's what you've been doing in the first half of this through a 6-month period. But then with the stress hit and you got derailed for a bit, you've recollected yourself this past week. And I want you to also remember the habit when you're talking about, not punching someone in the face. Yeah, a lot of us are taught that when we're growing up. Consequences to doing certain things probably shouldn't do. And our parents try to teach us that. But a lot of families, and probably yours is one of them, when it comes to food, you probably grew up with your parents eating in a similar way, right? So it's very
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, it's very easy for that to become normal. If you grow up that way, it becomes something that you just don't see any other way of living. There's no other reason for it. I grew up this way. It's worked from when I was a kid. My parents did it. You don't even think about it because it's what you grew up with. It becomes normalized. And that, unfortunately, people that whatever you grow up with becomes the norm. So if you grow up in a very abusive, toxic household, that becomes your norm. And then you can become abusive, or you can become toxic in many ways, and you have a lot of consequences from growing up that way that you have to deal with. But whatever it is that you take with you from your childhood, at some point in time, you got to, if there's anything negative that was there, you got to deal with it. And these eating patterns are what you're dealing with now, and you're dealing with them in an incredible way. I mean, you've experienced, I think, a necessary shift over the past month of difficult life circumstances, and it put you in a situation where you had to deal with that. And you had a couple weeks where you were gravitating towards the norm of what you normally do. And now you've shifted back to what it is that you should be doing. And you've done it in just an incredible way when you look at the fact that 4.6, 2.8 minus 1.2, losing 1.2 pounds after that. And it only took 2 weeks to get back on track and start to look at this in a different way. And you're practicing these skills, the skills of paying attention before each meal and being conscious of what you're doing, and then thinking it over before you act. Those are habits. Those are things that become easier as time goes on. And this week, you practiced it in the midst of stress, which is one of the first times that's ever happened, or probably the first time it's ever happened in a week time span where you've said, all right, I'm going to make some different choices this week, despite the fact that my life is not headed down the trajectory that I would love at this point in time. I still could do something about this. I can still control what I do and what I don't do when it comes to what it is that I'm eating. You did just that.